The parents of very young children play a crucial role in their development, never leaving their side for those precious years. That wasn't the case for the unfortunate Montana Kenny, though, as her father died just days after she turned 3 in 2013. However, 5 years later, she honored his memory by attempting Africa's toughest challenge. Montana and her mom, Holly, live in Austin, Texas, where Holly, a former triathlete, now runs her own triathlon coaching business. Tragedy struck the family in 2013 when Montana's dad passed away a week after the little girl's 3rd birthday. At the time of his death, Montana's dad was undergoing eye movement desensitization and reprocessing therapy, better known as EMDR, a treatment for survivors of trauma. However, Montana didn't forget about her father in the following years, as she often spoke about him with her mom. We've always talked about her dad being in heaven, and we always talk about her dad being above the clouds. That's where heaven is. 45-year-old Holly said in an interview with a news website in April of 2018. And I think mountains are very intriguing to her because a lot of them are above the clouds. As she grew older, Montana started to gain an interest in triathlons, ultimately following the path that her mother had once taken. According to Holly, her daughter had won several events as a young triathlete, including a number of swimming competitions. With that in mind, the now 7-year-old's eyes lit up when she overheard a conversation in 2017. A few years ago, Holly and her sister had discussed the idea of taking on one of the toughest challenges in the world, climbing Mount Kilimanjaro. When the latter pulled out, the 45-year-old swim coach then asked if any of her friends wanted to take her sister's place, and after listening to her mom talk about it, an intrigued Montana decided to step up. Montana said to me, "Mommy, I want to do it too," Holly told News 9 in April 2018. I didn't discount what she said, but I knew she didn't know the magnitude. So we started researching it and looking at videos. I was very real with her, explaining that people can get very sick, that we'd have to train very hard, and that it wouldn't be an easy task. However, despite her words of caution, Holly believed that time was on their side. That's because during her research, the mom discovered that climbers had to be at least 10 years old to summit Kilimanjaro, giving them the next 3 years to prepare. As time went on, though, the ex-triathlete started to see conflicting reports on the matter. Holly had heard of children younger than 10 trekking up the African mountain, but in January of 2018, her mindset changed completely. The Austin native discovered a report about an 8-year-old girl from Florida who, in 2017, had successfully climbed to Kilimanjaro's peak. With that in mind, she approached her daughter on the subject again the following day. "I woke up Montana the next morning and said, 'If you want this record, we have to go when you're still 7, Holly told News Media. "I knew that she had spring break in March, and we planned the entire trip in a month and a half. With their plans in place then, the pair started to train for the massive challenge ahead. Thanks to some help from a fellow triathlete, Holly found a guide who was able to pull a few strings. Crucially, the guide got permission for Montana to climb the mountain well under the minimum age. From there, the mom and daughter team began a grueling training schedule. This entailed weekend hikes lasting up to 8 hours and shorter treks during the weeks while the little girl was at school. Knowing that Montana was still in the 2nd grade, Holly mixed things up on their long hikes. The coach would test her daughter's math and spelling skills while trekking. When Montana decided to do this, I knew what kind of training she needed to do, and I didn't want to rob her of her childhood over that month and a half," Holly recalled. However, Montana's motivation for the climb changed after revisiting a conversation with her mother. When we talked about the mountain being above the clouds, she immediately associated that with heaven, and it resonated with her, Holly told News 9. She loved that idea of being closer to her dad and asked me if she was going to be able to see him. Despite all their training, though, Holly made one thing perfectly clear. "For a child with a developing brain, I was not going to risk anything," the mom told Weather.com. "If she had any issues where the average adult probably would have pushed through it, I was going to take her back down the mountain." With a guide in place and a group of over 20 people to provide support, Montana and Holly began their ascent of Kilimanjaro in March of 2018. And although the summit was over 19,300 feet away, the 7-year-old kept her spirits up throughout the journey. "Every day I asked Montana if this was harder or easier than she thought it would be, and every day she answered, 'Easier,'" Holly recalled to News Media. After 6 days of climbing, the pair finally reached the summit, but actually it had been far from easy. The weather had proved especially tough and had left the mom and daughter duo in an uncomfortable position on the final day. "Everything was wet by summit day," Holly said. "We were putting on wet clothes, wet boots, my hair was frozen, our water containers were frozen." Despite all that though, the mom and daughter duo achieved their goal of conquering Kilimanjaro on March 16, 2018, with Montana keeping an eye out for her dad at the summit. Unsurprisingly, this had been a record-breaking climb by the 7-year-old Austin native, who was just 2 months away from turning 8 at the time. Indeed, the Climb Mount Kilimanjaro group confirmed that Montana was the youngest girl ever to reach the mountain summit, rounding off an incredible journey. However, this wasn't just about breaking an impressive record. Montana and Holly's trek up Kilimanjaro also raised funds for EMDR therapy, a cause close to both of their hearts following their tragic loss in 2013. After the climb, they spent the next 2 weeks exploring Africa, taking in the sights and sounds of the incredible continent. When reflecting on the climb, Holly noted the potential significance it could have on her daughter in the years to come. This was a really cool thing for her, and it's kind of setting her up in life for some pretty amazing things, Holly told news websites. To be able to provide the ability for Montana to follow a dream that she wants to do, there's no price tag. Clearly, losing a parent at a young age can be devastating for the child in question. For 7-year-old Montana Kenny, though, some good came out of that tragic day in 2013. Indeed, the death of her father spurred Montana on to achieve something that won't ever be forgotten. She faced down the challenge of Mount Kilimanjaro and won. I hope you liked this video. If so, please hit the subscribe button and click on the bell icon to make sure you never miss a video from our channel.